slide in order to do. Yes, I've pressed the recording and I will repeat that my name is Lily Kirilenko and I am your tutor for APM. Thank you for joining me today, and I am going to talk to you about the APM exam. Now, with the APM exam, the pass rates are the worst. I mean, literally the worst pass rates in the exam. Sometimes AAA can be worse, but usually it's APM who's the king. But then when you look at the theory, you get surprised because there is not much to not understand. I mean, pastel model. No, I'm not stupid. I can understand that this is political, economic, social, and so on. Balanced scorecard. Oh, of course, I can understand financial performance. Okay, market and so on. Great. Why do people fail? That's an interesting story, and I am going to tell you about it, and I'm going to tell you how the course is going to help to find that. So, the first problem that people have with this exam, and I am going to share my screen. Can you see it already? I hope you can. Yes, you can. Is that people answer the wrong exam. Answer the wrong exam. How can it be possible? Well, I will tell you how. If you use the word should, chances are that you're answering the wrong exam. You won't get any marks. And why? Because APM is about performance management. Performance management means that we are trying to manage the results, manage our profit, manage our revenue, and so on. And as such, this means that there is someone else who has developed a strategy, those people that take SBL exam, and now we need to make sure that the strategy can be implemented. So it's not your job to change the company. And it's very unlikely that you will be required to say what to do, what to change. Your job would be to talk about whatever is in the scenario and evaluate that. Yes, and also when we're talking about the wrong exam, we also need to talk about the context of the question. The context of the question. So look, if you're going to be a financial consultant, it would be a totally different price list depending on whether you want to just analyze what is bad about something, and totally different price if you are also hired to come up with the changes. Totally different price list if you are going to implement the changes. And with APM, you need to distinguish between these projects. Most likely, you will be asked to comment on the problems. So your questions will be discuss the drawbacks, discuss the limitations, discuss the extent to which the director's comments are valid. So you need to use that context, because if you are going to suggest something and you are not asked to suggest anything, then this means that 0 marks will be awarded. The next problem is the way the answer is formulated. And my favorite example would be, I'm going to write it here, smoking should be banned from public places as smoking kills. Look at that and type to the chat box how many marks you think this very sentence is going to bring. How many marks? 0.5, 1, 2, 10. Any idea? I will not remember you, so I won't tell anyone that, okay, this is you, Said, who said it's 5 marks or 7 marks. Just do that. Let's communicate. So you tell me, how many marks do you think this sentence in some hypothetical exam on smoking is going to bring you? Oh, you are awfully quiet today. It makes me paranoid that the internet is not working and you can't hear me. And yes, and this training is in vain, but still. So the worst answer to give would be to say that is going to bring you zero point 0.5 marks. Zero point 0.5 marks are not awarded in professional level exams. Why? A 0.5 mark can be awarded in fundamental level exams, like let's say double A, if you are going to answer the verb list. So for example, if a question would be list the procedures to test fixtures in place, then the existence of or non-existence of fixtures in place, that would be list, you would get 0.5 marks for each of the idea. But that is not what is tested, because in this very exam or in any strategic paper exam, you are asked to justify, to explain. You need to understand the role. Your role would be to be a great professional that is not number cruncher. It's not your job to physically do the work. Your job is to think about the offers, that the suggestions that different people bring, talk about the benefits and drawbacks, and justify why this has to be taken or not taken. And yeah, so you have to justify. 0.5 marks will not be given. So will a mark be given? A mark is going to be given 1 mark for one new properly justified idea. What does it mean, properly justified idea? Properly justified idea means that there has to be some as, because, such as, therefore. Do we have it in here? Do we have this explanation, this causality? Yes, we have it as. Then we need to double check whether the explanation really relates to whatever is being tested. And look, we need to look at the specifics. And the specifics in here are adjectives. In here we have public places. So it's smoking should be banned from public places. So the justification should relate to the fact that they are public. And as such, you just need to add one word to be absolutely true. Secondhand smoking kills. If you were to add just these words, second-hand smoking kills, then you would get 1 mark. Without it, your justification does not relate to the proposition that you put there, so there will be no marks. And because people are unaware of that, they don't know that they need to make this extra effort, and you can see that the effort is just minor, right? And they don't get marks. Sad, right? Okay, what else? Now, the next thing that we're going to pay attention to would be the question. Understanding the question. Understanding the question. Okay, what is the drill in here? Well, the drill in here is that question can be formulated differently. And usually when I ask people what questions they had in their exam, they would just say, balanced scorecard. Oh, I had a Lincoln cross performance parameter and so on. That is not important. You may know the theory about this very topic. You may understand what it is in this scenario, but the question will be formulated differently. So, for example, if I were to talk about the effect of introduction of just in time on performance, I would talk about the values of measures. So I would need to explain that, let's say, the revenue will decrease, costs will decrease. Let's say inventory obsolescence will decrease. Let's say quality will improve, and so on. If my question would be the effect of introduction of just-in-time on performance. If the question would be effect of introduction of just-in-time on performance management, I would talk about something different. I would talk about budgeting. I would talk about the quality management, that the prevention costs will need to be increased. I would talk about the management style. So the management should listen to the suggestions that are made by people. I would talk about the types of KPIs. So you see, if you would answer this very question as you were answering performance question, you would get 0 marks. Well, maybe 1, 2. But on top of that, there could be even more questions. We could be asked to talk about the effect on performance measurement, or let's say performance management systems. And all these questions would require different answers. And on top of that, the questions can be formulated differently. So discuss the extent to which the directors are right, would ask you to talk about the benefits and the drawbacks, rights and wrongs. Let's say evaluate the appropriateness would require you to talk about yes and no's. But let's say discuss the limitations would require you to talk only about the bad stuff and nothing about the good stuff. Or let's say discuss the benefits, discuss how the system could help, would require you to talk about only about the good stuff and just one very heavy drawback that would be used to get marks on professional points. So that is the problem. The next problem that is actually very easy to fix would be professional marks. We have 20 of them. And look, before the marks were invented, the professional marks were invented, still the same portion of people would pass the exam. And people that pass the exam would pass the exam on some marginal mark, 50, 52, 54, not 80. People don't get 80 in this exam. And what does it mean? It means that you can't ignore the 20 marks that are in here. You need to know how to get them. Good thing for you is that I'm going to teach you. I'm going to explain to you properly. This is how we get marks on communication. This is how we're going to get marks on, let's say, skepticism and so on. So, because people are unaware of that complexity, they fail the exam. If they are aware of this complexity, they pass. To highlight the point, I also have some one-on-one tuition, and there are people that would come to me, and they would come to me after multiple failures. They would say, I got 47, 48, 49, and then 35, and the result is getting worse and worse. I just need to get it passed. So usually it takes me like 10 to 15 classes to fix them, and that's it. And that's for the whole syllabus. Well, not teaching every part, of course, we would skip something like, let's say, McKinsey 7S model because it's not tested very often, but still, like people would pass after 10, 15 classes. And that means that the difference between getting the pass rate and not getting the 50 marks that we need to get lies in proper understanding of these problems. And that is what I'm going to teach you. So if we are going to discuss how the training is going to be structured, you are going to have the video lectures that were made by me. And I have recorded them. I know how the topics are tested. I know what to look for. So obviously I stress them for you. Then when we're talking about pre-recorded stuff, there is going to be also past papers that I show you how different areas of the syllabus are tested. And since I've been teaching this exam for something like over a decade, I know different past papers. I know which of them are good, which of them are bad, because not every paper, not every question is worth practicing. Sometimes they are too complex and there is just like one off harsh experience and it will never be tested similarly again. Sometimes it's just repetition of whatever we have covered. In our course, you have the questions that are selected with care. So past papers. On top of that, you are going to have live classes. I would stress that live classes are not designed to review all the theory. You have video classes for that. With live classes, we will practice answering the questions. It would be important. The way that it works with this exam, you don't really need to know all the theory. I mean, obviously it helps, and there are some questions that need to be answered a certain way, but if your exam technique is good, if you understand the context, then you will be able to pass by applying this perfect exam technique. And that is what I'm going to give you during these live classes. We're going to have 4 of them. Then you are going to have assignments, progress tests, and you are going to have mock. And I know you are busy people, right? So you may think, okay, I have such a rough week. I don't have time to practice. I'm going to do that over the weekend and so on. And I do know, and that happens, like not many people, not everyone submits their assignments. No, not everyone submits progress tests. I would highlight this to you. You can't rely on mock. Mocks are very destructive for your pass rate if that is the only reviewed practice that you've got. Why? Because the mock is going to be written by you a week before the exam. And if that is the first time you get your task, your questions reviewed, then you will have lots of comments there. And you will learn that, let's say you have something like, let's say 30 marks out of 50. And of course, you're going to get depressed and it's going to mess with your head. We don't want that. And also, you will get feedback from me. This needs to be improved. This needs to be corrected, and so on. My feedback will be given to your way of answering questions, to your answer, not to the model answer. I don't care about it. Your answer can contradict the model answer, but it will earn full mark if it is properly justified, if it relates to whatever is asked and whatever is in the scenario. And my job is to make your ideas, however imperfect they are, being put on paper the way that they are not. And it's like with fitness. If you just go to fitness and your coach is going to tell you that your arms need to be in parallel, you can't just say, okay, and put them into parallel right away, right? You need to have some practice. So, okay, well, first time it will be better, but not perfect. And by the 10th time, it would be absolutely okay, right? But you need to practice. You can't just change your physical patterns of training, right? The same idea is in here. So you need some time to get my comments and incorporate in the answer. I will tell you that when we're talking about the assignments or the progress test, so on a normal day, and I have this experience for over a decade, doesn't really matter how well a person studies, person would get 6 marks out of 25 marks on average. See how big the problem is? It doesn't really matter whether they have studied well or not well. And you can imagine that the first progress test is given very early in the course, so it covers just a few chapters. It's not that voluminous. So it's not like you need to remember something that you studied 2 months ago. No, but still the results are that bad because of poor technique. And because of poor technique, that is the reason why only 33% or 30% of people pass. 70% of people fail. 70% of people fail in the exam that has no formulas. It's not AFM, right? It has nothing to be remembered by heart. It's not, let's say, SBR, where you have to remember standards. In this exam, quite often you are given the model. Like Lynch and Cross Performance Pyramid, they say, oh my God, you will not be able to remember, 12 points that we have there, 12 blocks that we have there. So here are they for you. You will be given the models quite often, but still people fail. because of the reasons that I had talked to you before. So you have to submit progress tests, you have to submit assignments, even if it would be just 2 sentences, because I do understand that you're busy people, it would still be so much better. And also, it would be important for you because later, when we're going to have our classes, I would comment on some of the assignments. I would expand why this was not right and how it should be improved. And if that would be your part, and of course, I'm not going to broadcast that this was done by Mark. Look at how poorly Mark managed to do this assignment. No, of course, it will be without any names. And we understand that, well, when you are studying, when you are learning something, you have to make mistakes. You do. That's a natural process. It doesn't make me hate you or love you less. No, I'm actually generally proud that you worked and you made this effort to walk out of your comfort zone and try to write and then deal with the feedback from me. But if I talk about your assignments, parts of the assignments in class, then you can benefit because they will be your thoughts. We need to change the way that your thoughts appear in your brains and are put on paper. And that is it. And on top of that, of course, I'm going to be in your WhatsApp group. Please don't write me in private messages. I'm going to all the questions I'm going to just copy paste to the group chat. Why? Well, because it is great when the questions are in group chat because in this case, everyone can benefit from studying. So they will say, oh, okay, I haven't thought of that, but probably that is the problem. So now I'm going to draw my attention to it. Or you are going to say, oh, they have come to chapter 3. I haven't even touched chapter 1. I need to go and deal with that, and so on. So yes, please write questions in the chat. And another thing is ethical thing. So um, we need to give each other equal opportunities, right? So if some people are going to go and walk out of the comfort zone and ask some questions in chat, it is equally expected that the rest of the people are going to do the same because, well, you have equal opportunities. The same goes for the assignment, for the progress test, and so on. We all have equal opportunities. We have deadlines, so we have to keep them. Okay, so that is how we're going to proceed. That is what is so difficult about the exam. And I am open for your questions. And while I'm waiting for your questions, could you please write in the chat box, are there any other exams that you are taking together with APM? Or is it an only exam that you are taking? Do you have any other exams that you are taking? Okay, you have SBL. SBL and APM. Be very careful. I see it so often on Reddit and other platforms that people say, oh, take SBL and APM. They have the same syllabus. Yes and no. Well, they have, let's say, pastel model. A few models, yes, are the same. But hey, that is not the most important, the hardest part in this exam, right? The problem is that the mindset is different. SBL is a lot about changes. So in there, you will need to say the company should change, the company should adopt, and so on. With APM, you don't change. So you, the person that takes SBL together with APM, pay attention that the word should be banned in APM exam. Okay. Okay, so for the rest of you, it's going to be an only exam. Lovely. And yes, I hope you pass triple A. Triple A is not the best exam to study twice. So I wish you the best of luck. Okay, great. If you have any questions, you are welcome to ask them. And I would also like to stress 30% of people pass. This means 70% of people fail. So if we are going to put people on this imaginary ladder, you have to be above this 70%. And in this case, you need to ask, how come you are better than 70% of people? What can be different? Well, you have a wonderful tutor. That is for one. Okay, that is your advantage. But to actually have a wonderful tutor, you need to listen to the course that I have created. So please participate. But still, other people that fail are also hardworking. They also have had some experience. They also can read. The majority of people are going to be very fluent in English. I know that for some of you, this may be not the language that you do in daily life. So by default, the speed that you process the information with is going to be reduced. It's not the end of the world, and frankly speaking, those people that have English as a second language find it easier to formulate the ideas in a shorter way compared to those people that don't have any restrictions on writing the sentences. Well, because if they don't wonder about the words to use, usually they overspend time and just write it for too long. So what can be different? Well, let's say you can say I watched all the videos, or you can say I practiced, I submitted all the assignments, or I'm smart. I generally perceive the information much faster, much better than the majority of people. So something has to be about you that will make you stand out of 70%. If you don't feel that puzzle, this piece of the puzzle, this means that you need to find it. This means that you need to change something. Practice more. Spend more time. Attempt any assignment. You need to be better than 70% of other hardworking people. Okay? Yes. So, uh, any questions? No questions at all. Wow. Okay. Is there anything unique about APM compared to other exams? Looking at the syllabus, and it doesn't seem as long as other papers. That's what I told you. So if I do individual classes, usually people take 10, 15 classes to pass. And that is not much, right? I can't make a person like pass SBR within this time. With SBR, we need much more. What is unique? Well, that is unique. The way the question is formulated, the way that the people are formulate the answer. Another thing that is unique is about the logic. So you need to understand your job role. Your job role is to be performance manager, to be that manager with the carrot and the stick that makes the company get the results that it needs. And you will have to justify your ideas in a slightly proper way compared to other exams. Why would people pass AFM but can't pass APM? Because with APM, you don't have numbers. You may be asked to calculate EVA. It's quite easy. There are no scary symbols there. It's not AFM. It's not like you need to know deviations, like standard deviation, something like that. With APM, it's very straightforward. You theoretically may be asked to recalculate the budget, but quite often you don't need to calculate at all. It will be absolutely fine if you would just forget it or not use it. So because all of the marks come from the discussion, and that is what is the weak spot of the majority of people, that is why the pass rate is so disastrous. Talking about the syllabus of this exam. So when we're talking about achieving the results, the first thing that we would need to know is how to make dashboards. So dashboards meaning the selection of KPIs. That is actually very practical because what happens with the business, especially in the developing countries, is that the owners of the company are now quite old, so they are like 50, 60, 70, and so on, and they would like to delegate the management to someone else and to go and lie on the beach, travel, and enjoy the life. But in order to delegate to someone else, they need to put KPIs in place so that they would see this red, yellow, green, so they could learn whether the value is created or destroyed. So in this exam, we're going to talk about the dashboards, how to select KPI. That would be our first class. That would be our first assignment. That is the most important topic because this is tested in every exam. I can guarantee that will happen. And in there, we will have to justify. And if you say revenue increased, cost decreased, this means that you are answering the wrong exam. This is not this one. We are talking about the template, not about the results. In this very exam, we are going to talk a lot about budgeting. We're going to talk about the stars of the management. We're going to talk about the quality and including the quality practices such as lean, so just-in-time, Kaizen costing, and so on. We are going to talk about the IT changes that can support our management. So better data, for example. We are going to talk a lot about the divisions because it could be that we're located in the UK and we have subsidiary in Australia. So we need to know how to make sure that it works without micromanagement. We are going to have a new measure which is called EVA, not very hard, kind of similar to earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, but still slightly different. Not rocket science. And we're going to talk about not-for-profit organizations. So these are the key topics that we're going to look at, and these are the key tools to manage the company. And the way for you to pass, if we're talking about these very topics, would be to understand how the topics are tested and how we formulate the ideas. What's the best approach to maximize marks in the exam? For example, which question does one start with? 50-mark question, 25, and so on. We are going to talk about this closer to the exam, but the approach is 25, 15, and 25. We start with the easiest, question B, then we go to question A, and then we go to question B again. But you need to participate in progress tests and in mock to see why it works and how it works. Any other questions? Okay, no questions. Well, if there are no questions, then I would thank you for joining me live today. You're going to get the recording, so no worries, it will be sent to you. And we are going to meet at our live classes soon. So have a fantastic day, and I will see you next. Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.